Hello, everyone. Good evening. Before we begin, I'd like to ask everyone to silence any electronic devices that they have at this time to make sure that they don't ring during our ceremony. And now, while you're already standing, please remain standing for the presentation of our colors by the United States Air Force Junior ROTC Unit VA 821 and the singing of our national anthem by Miss Catherine Donovan. Mary Catherine Donovan, excuse me. I don't know where she is. Mary Catherine. Thank you. You may be seated. Thank you, Mary Catherine. Thank you, Junior ROTC. Also this evening, you will notice that we have interpreters to my right on the stage. Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to this auspicious occasion in the lives of our George Mason High School seniors. We extend an especially warm welcome to the friends and families of our seniors. We know that some of you have traveled great distances to be with us here this evening. We think that you will find it was worth the trip. I am joined on stage by George Mason valedictory scholars and speakers, David Matz and Clara Frost, and our colleague and friend, Ms. Karin Tews, whom this class has chosen to honor by inviting her to deliver this evening's commencement address. Also joining us on stage are Senior Class President Carolyn Worley, Senior Class Vice President Annie Ferguson, Senior Class Secretary Vicki Marie Adu-Ashong, Senior Class Treasurer Aaron McMillan, Superintendent Dr. Tony Jones, Assistant Superintendent of Curriculum, Innovation, and Personnel, Ms. Lisa High, School Board Chair, Mr. Justin Castillo, School Board Member, Ms. Margaret Ward, Falls Church City Mayor, Mayor David Tarter, Senior Class Advisors, Mr. William Snyder and Mr. Eric Healy, who is also our Dean of Students, Director of Special Education and Student Services, Ms. Elizabeth Germer, Assistant Principal, Mr. Matt Hills, Assistant Principal, Mr. Kevin Clark, Director of Counseling, Ms. Amy Krajanowicz, Band Director, Ms. Mary Jo West, and the George Mason Wind Ensemble. To the left, up in the audience there, you'll also see the George Mason Chamber Singers, who will also be directed by Ms. Mary Jo West this evening. I now invite Class Vice President Annie Ferguson to come forward and welcome you on behalf of her fellow seniors.
Hello, my name is Annie Ferguson, and as the Vice President of the senior class, I would like to welcome family, friends, teachers, administration, and of course my fellow classmates to the commencement ceremony of the George Mason High School for the class of 2016. On behalf of our class, I would like to thank our parents for your love and support, our teachers for your guidance, and our friends for being there throughout our high school years. Also, a large thank you to our class sponsors, Mr. Snyder and Mr. Healy. Last but not least, I would like to congratulate and thank all of you, the class of 2016, for being one of the most distinguished and diverse classes Mason has ever seen. It is now my sincere pleasure to introduce the school board chair, Mr. Justin Castillo, who will bring greetings from the school board.
Thank you, Ms. Ferguson, and welcome. I see a lot of familiar faces here today. On behalf of the school board, I'd like to congratulate the class of 2016 on this beautiful day, and I'm so glad we didn't do this yesterday because the drive home would be somewhat epic. You've worked hard to get here today, and you should be proud of your achievements, and you should be looking forward to the many achievements that are to come still. I'd like to welcome the many people, both those who are present today as well as those who couldn't be here, who provided the class of 2016 with love and support over the years, including friends, guardians, and family. I welcome also Mayor Tarter and other members of the City Council and other honored guests. To everyone at George Mason High School, thank you for your dedication, your professionalism, and your devotion over the years. Thanks also to everyone at Falls Church City Public Schools, from Mount Daniel to Thomas Jefferson, to Mary Ellen Henderson, and to Dr. Jones and her team at the central office, who have helped to develop and nurture the many talents of the class of 2016. Finally, thank you, Mr. Bird, for challenging the students of George Mason High School to excel in mind, body, and character. We will miss you. I will not miss the Cowboys paraphernalia, but we will miss you very much and wish you well. Tonight, I will be working at all-night graduation at the poker and blackjack tables. Note to parents, no real money will exchange hands, and there is nothing up my sleeves. With a night of casino gambling just around the corner, what could be better than to share a few brief words about luck? Chance or luck or randomness plays a bigger role in our lives than we may realize. It's nice to think that life can be planned or mapped out, and right now there probably seems to be a certain logic to how things have turned out today. But in retrospect, if you look back at very small changes, small events, we could all be in very different places. I think about how I met my wife or how I ended up in my career, and I think if some very small things had changed, I would be in a completely different life. I don't know what that would look like, and there are many different outcomes, and we'll never know what all the possibilities are. Chance has already affected the members of this class in many ways. Some of you may never have heard of George Mason High School until you were evacuated here from abroad as a result of unrest or revolution during your State Department postings. Chance could also be something like the class you were assigned to back at Mount Daniel, where you met your best friend, or a science teacher at Mary Ellen Henderson who sparked your interest in a new subject. Chance is already working on you now. You're finding about new roommates at college, people you haven't met, people who could well change your life in ways that you don't know. So how do you look at randomness and chance in the future? Many of you have no idea what you want to do in life. I certainly didn't at this stage, and that's all right. And many of you are going to end up in fields that don't even exist yet. Some of us up here are probably working in fields that won't exist in several years as well. I speak largely to the practice of law. Technology is going to present new challenges for society and government that may be difficult to perceive, much less solve. Being open to chance, being open to making connections among fields and things that are not necessarily on their face connected, will help you, the class of 2016, in all of those areas. The Wall Street Journal recently ran a story in early April suggesting that college students should stop trying to focus on discovering their true inner self and begin making new connections and capitalizing on chance in what the article called our messy, ever-changing world. And the article used the example of a hypothetical student who aspires to be a diplomat. She participates in Model UN and is fluent in Spanish and plans to major in international relations. But during a summer abroad in Spain, she gets sick. She's never been hospitalized before, and during her stay, she becomes curious about medicine, fascinated. If she's open to the possibilities that this unexpected turn of events now presents, she'll realize she now has two options: stick with the plan to become a diplomat, or pursue a career in healthcare, a field she might never have considered before. What she chooses to do in the end isn't as important as her knowing that she has a choice. Chance, it is said, favors the prepared mind. So keep your eyes open. Look up from your phones from time to time. To meet new people and seek new connections in ways that may not be apparent at first. Don't worry that you can't plan everything, and welcome the opportunities that chance brings. So congratulations to the class of 2016, and I'll see you at casino night this evening. Thanks.
Thank you, Mr. Castillo. The George Mason Scholar Award recognizes the outstanding academic achievement for our graduating seniors. This award is presented to students who've completed a high school program which includes a minimum of 25 credits, a cumulative grade point average of 3.85, and the following courses taken for a letter grade: 4 years of social studies, 4 years of preparatory mathematics, 3 years of one foreign language or 2 years of 2 different languages, 3 years of laboratory science, and international baccalaureate courses in 2 disciplines. This year, there are 61 students receiving this award. They are wearing silver medallions this evening to signify their outstanding academic achievement. In the fall, these students will be attending the following post-secondary institutions: Amherst College, Boston College, Brandeis University, Brigham Young University, Brown University, Clemson University, Colgate University, College of William and Mary, Cornell University, DePaul University, East Carolina University, George Washington University, Georgetown University, Grinnell College, Haverford College, J. Madison University, Lynchburg College, Northeastern University, Pennsylvania State University, Pomona College, Rice University, Tufts University, United States Coast Guard Academy, United States Naval Academy, University of British Columbia, University of Colorado at Boulder, University of Chicago, University of Dayton, University of Mary Washington, University of Pittsburgh, University of Rochester, University of Texas at Austin, University of Virginia, University of Washington, Virginia Commonwealth University, Virginia Polytechnic Institute and State University, Wake Forest University, Washington and Lee University, Wheaton College, Whitman College, and Yale University. Wow, Congratulations. And the recipients of the George Mason Scholar Award will be recognized when they receive their diplomas. Finally, we recognize 44 students tonight who've earned the distinction of being named George Mason Valedictory Scholars by maintaining a cumulative grade point average of 4.0 or better throughout their high school years. They are wearing gold medallions this evening to signify their outstanding academic achievement. These recipients will also be recognized when they receive their diplomas. And with that, on behalf of Falls Church City Public Schools, I would like to say congratulations to the class of 2016. You have been outstanding. You're one of our last classes that actually had 5 years at Mason, but you've really made a difference at George Mason. So thank you, and go out and conquer the world. Thank you.
This is a buffer sentence. Snyder said I would need one before people started paying attention, so consider yourselves buffered. Anyways, it's interesting that today is the day we marked on our calendars. Today is the day we bought caps and gowns for. And today is the day the grandparents flew in to be with us. All that and more, because today is not an especially special day. The truly special, extraordinary days are some ordinary Tuesday of some inauspicious week of some random month. Days when you win small victories, like programming a ball to bounce. Nothing huge or world-shaking, but enough to make a day special. It doesn't need to be coming first in a race to be a special day. A run with the cross-country team through Magical Forest is enough. Even just biking home, alone, or with friends. Little things like grabbing a chocolate chip muffin, shaking hands with the crossing guards, saying hi to the crossing guards, and shaking hands with Mr. Bird are the nice routines that make days special. Of course, there are those days you would rather not have to live through. There's that day when it takes half an hour just to crawl out of bed and you can't do the homework you planned to do during mustling block because it's a short Wednesday, and the highest grade in the class on the physics test is a 64%, and you have to sit out a workout because you feel like throwing up, and the whole time you're trying to push all the stuff you got to put in manage back out of your head. So those days can get pretty rough, and it becomes hard to see the beautiful world through all the sham, drudgery, and broken dreams. It's worth it, though, because of the time you bike to Panera with a friend and stay there studying until it closes, fighting to figure out Taylor's series together. It's not the test on the Civil War that makes a day worthwhile and special. It's the lunch before it that you spend with friends, laughing about Lincoln dissing McClellan. And again, it's not like every day is a great day, but the great days are everyday days. That includes anticipated events, like a class on Bayesian probability in the morning, as well as unanticipated events, like applying it to a bomb threat in the afternoon. It's just an ordinary day, in class, at practice, with friends, wherever, that becomes extraordinary. And where else can extraordinary days come from? The special days are the routine ones. Routines are routines because they're the right way to do things. Ordinary days have to be special because they're the most important. Graduation takes one day, but the school year has 180. What's important is what goes on in those normal days. By normal, I mean a day that, going purely by looks, has students file into a classroom, sit in a small circle, and talk for a bit, then leave. It all seems very standard and habitual, but that's where the special days come from, because the students sitting in that circle were getting unreasonably excited over whether Newton invented or discovered gravity. Or perhaps that excitement is reasonable and what makes normal days special. After all, that's why we do theory of knowledge, or anything else for that matter, so that we can grow knowledge from more to more and enrich our lives. It's these ordinary days spent in a classroom, down on the field, at a friend's house, or anywhere else, so typical yet so special, that should be celebrated. And obviously, we aren't conscious of the importance of the ordinary days as they happen. Only in hindsight do we realize how much we've grown. For that, we get together today, but we should remember today is not an especially special day in and of itself. It is rather our experiences, however small and gradual and everyday they may have been, that we now reflect on and honor. Since today is not a day to be celebrated, but to celebrate, congratulations, class of 2016, on 4 years of truly special days.
Welcome to your life. There's no turning back. Even while we sleep, we will find you acting on your best behavior. Turn your back on Mother Nature. Everybody wants to rule the world. It's my own design. It's my own remorse. Help me to decide. Help me make the most of freedom and of pleasure. Nothing ever lasts forever. Everybody wants to rule the world. There's a room where the light won't find you. Holding hands while the walls come tumbling down. When they do, I'll be right behind you. So glad we've almost made it. So sad they had to fade it. Everybody wants to rule the world. I can't stand this indecision, buried with a lack of vision. Everybody wants to rule them. Say that you'll never, 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 never need it. One headline, why believe it? Everybody wants to rule the world. Everybody wants to rule the world. The world. The world.
Good evening, friends, family, teachers, administrators, and fellow members of the class of 2016. It's truly astonishing how much we've all changed over these past 4 years. I remember being a freshman and proudly announcing that I go to George Mason and getting the inevitable response, "Really, you look too young to be in college." Now that we've made it to the end of our high school experience, there's one word that I've been hearing a lot, and that's bittersweet. I think that it's a good thing if you're feeling bittersweet, because balance is important. We all struggled balancing schoolwork, sports, friends, Netflix, and more over the past 4 years. And we're going to continue to struggle, seeing as Netflix comes out with new titles all the time, and we can always rewatch The Office. So I want to point out exactly why we as seniors feel bittersweet around this time. In just a few months, we won't be living less than a mile away from our best friends. We won't get to keep our school-issued laptops, which never cause distractions during class. We won't get to save up all of our homework to do during Mustang Block. And the class of 2016 Facebook page will no longer be relevant. I know I'm going to miss the endless notifications and invitations to sporting events. But this is where it's nice to think about what's sweet from graduating from George Mason. Well, we'll never have to navigate the junior or senior parking lots ever again. We never have to write another IA, EE, IOP, or any other high school assignment that's too long to be described by anything other than an acronym. We get to move to a new environment and live on our own at college, where we won't be attending school for 7 hours every day, although a lot of our classmates couldn't handle that anyways. We get to take the next steps in our lives, starting on a fresh page. We get to find and explore subjects that we're truly passionate about. Pretty soon, Esther Wisdom will be involved in STEM research. Raheem Lawal will be running several businesses, probably not including his delivery service. Ashley Smith will be excelling in international studies, and Madeline Gradle, who couldn't make it tonight, is already pursuing her dreams of becoming a professional ballerina. The list goes on, and I can't wait to see everyone develop their diverse interests. We are allowed to be sad about leaving certain aspects of high school behind, but let's balance that out by acknowledging all that our futures have in store. Of course, to get to the great things in our futures, we have to overcome the challenges that we're going to face. There's one woman who's taught me confidence, self-motivation, and how not to behave at the VMAs. She once said, "There's always going to be another mountain, and I'm always going to want to make it move." If Miley Cyrus can tackle adversity, then so can every one of you. Every mistake, every apparent failure that we'll face can be balanced out by future success. Just like how, in 2012, our freshman class lost to the 8th graders in the first annual pep rally. But by learning from our mistakes and utilizing seniority, we were able to win our final senior year pep rally in 2015. It's bittersweet to be standing before everyone here today, but mostly sweet. Here we are, on our last day of being high school students, excited to see what's going to happen next. I'd like to thank you all for creating a supportive community where we've all grown up together. From the ice cream socials at TJ and field trips to DC, Jamestown, and Williamsburg, to middle school dances at the rec center, which I wish I could forget. The memories that make leaving George Mason bittersweet may not be what you'd expect. Some of my most cherished memories are from the 200+ hours I spent on a school bus driving to soccer games. As we all move on in our lives, some of these memories may be forgotten, but our feelings about George Mason will stay the same. So this is it. Our class is finally done, and I'm proud to say that I was a part of it. Congratulations, class of 2016.
At this time, I would like to recognize 4 of our colleagues who were serving as faculty marshals this evening. They led our distinguished faculty into the audience, into the hall. We honor Ms. Kirsten Albert, Mr. Brian Harris, and Ms. Tracy Vandernaald, all nominees for the 2016 Washington Post Outstanding Teacher of the Year Award. We also honor Ms. Allison Johnson, who will be leaving us after 12 years for a professional advancement opportunity in the great sunshine state of Florida, where she will be closer to her family. I'd like to ask them to please stand and be recognized for their fine service to these Mustangs and many Mustangs before them. I now invite Class Secretary Vicky Marie Adu-Ashong to come forward for the presentation of the class gift. Okay. I'm sorry, Aaron McMillan is going to do that. My apologies.
Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. My name is Erin McMillan, and as a senior class treasurer, I have the pleasure of introducing our class gift. The class of 2016 would like to provide the George Mason High School community with 2 tokens of our appreciation for all that it has done for us. The first gift, which I'm sure many of you have heard about, is the MVC Scholarship, which embodies everything that Mason stands for: mind, body, and character. This scholarship is for a member of the senior class that excels in these 3 fields, and it is the first student-sponsored scholarship in the school's history. In addition, our class is donating to the Friends of Falls Church homeless shelter. We had the pleasure of continuing this senior project over the winter, working with this charity and getting further involved in our community. The time we spent volunteering is something we all enjoyed, and for that, we wish to give something back. Both of these gifts reflect the substantial time and effort put in from the senior class, and we are very happy to announce these donations as our gifts. Now, I'll pass over the mic to Senior Class Secretary Vicky Marie Adu-Ashong for the introduction of a commencement speaker. Thank you.
The commencement speaker for tonight's ceremony is our very own Mrs. Tews. Starting her time in Falls Church in 2003, Mrs. Tews works as a George Mason creative writing teacher, 12th grade higher level English teacher, and sponsored both the Future Educators of America Club and 9 Muses Literary Magazine. Due to all her efforts and dedication, Mrs. Tews earned the Agnes Meyer Outstanding Teacher of the Year Award from the Washington Post Educational Foundation in 2012. In addition to all this, last year, Ms. Tews had the honor of being the convocation speaker at her alma mater, George Mason University, presenting a speech to the College of Humanities and Social Sciences. I've only just touched on the surface of everything Mrs. Tews has achieved in her life, and for those of you wishing to know more, a brief description can be found in tonight's program. I think after a year of teaching many of us, there's no one more qualified or appropriate to speak to us all tonight. Ladies and gentlemen, it is my pleasure to introduce to you Mrs. Karen Tews.
Thank you, Vicki. Thank you, Dr. Jones, members of the school board, Principal Bird, and my fellow colleagues. It is an honor to be speaking to you today, but I realize that I stand before you as a representative of the many outstanding faculty members at George Mason and FCC PS schools. Thank you, senior class, for your invitation and your faith in me. Mr. Snyder said I had to do 2 things today: tell jokes and speak for 30 minutes. Okay, actually only one of those is true, and you'll find out which very shortly. Let's get one thing straight before anyone asks. I am standing up, and no, I'm not even on a step stool back here. This is my 13th GMHS graduation. And band, you thought 4 years was a long time. By this point, my colleagues and I know what makes a good graduation speaker. In fact, many of the faculty members at Mason mark their time by either being pre or post speech by an unnamed elected official who showed up late, made some off-color comments, and some dubious scientific claims about monkeys being able to move things with their minds. As memorable as that speech was, I think we all agree that our favorite commencement speakers are always the ones that have a personal connection to the graduating class. So hopefully I can live up to that expectation. I'm going to say a few words now that only the future graduates will understand. Schoology assignments, EE deadlines, STAR testing, SOLs, High C, TLC, promposals, dual enrollment, and the sometimes dreaded, sometimes revered IB. What was once part of your high school lingo will quickly evaporate. All the hours you put into those areas will be forgotten, perhaps even by next week. But before you leave, I'm not going anywhere, sorry. Before you leave, I want you to do something. Reflect on learning. Over the past 12 years, your job has been to learn. What a luxury. When in your life will someone cook for you, do your laundry for you, pay your cell phone bills, or even shovel snow so that you can have more time to study? Today, as you end your formal public education, I want you to reflect on something. As all of your senior year English teachers have asked you to reflect in the capstone, paper, and presentation, this sort of reflection should be quite familiar to you. So here it goes. When was the last time you learned something? Truly learned something. Not for a grade, not under duress cramming the night before a physics test, not because a parent or a guardian thought you should take math studies, but learning simply because you had the desire. Think for just a moment. When was the last time you learned something? Now that you have something in your mind, I want you to think about where you learned this. Instead of learning this in an animal science classroom at ACC, Mr. Scharf's TOK class, or during a fishbowl discussion, was it even in a classroom at all? Perhaps it was in a much more informal location, on a bus ride talking to a friend about the upcoming presidential election, in the kitchen watching your dad scramble eggs, or sitting in the senior alcoves learning how to apply the newest filter on Snapchat. While Virginia may identify this day as the end of your free public education, you should not. Whatever you do, don't stop learning. From here on out, you are in charge of your education. While this may be intimidating and exhilarating, it does carry with it great responsibility. Some of you will go on to learn from colleagues in the workforce. Some of you are headed to military academies and a life of service. Some of you will explore a gap year in Spain, Latin America, and elsewhere, while others of you are headed off to college. So now what? One of the most valuable pieces of information you can leave high school with is knowing yourself. More specifically, knowing your learning style. Some of you that took Dr. Sen Sharma's psychology class will know this, but others may not. Dr. Howard Gardner developed a theory of multiple intelligences in 1983, in which he proposed that the traditional notion of intelligence, based on an IQ test, was far too limiting. But rather, he argued that there are 8 different intelligences under which people learn: linguistic, logical, mathematical, spatial, bodily or kinesthetic, musical, intrapersonal, interpersonal, and naturalist. We all learn. Do you know what type of learner you are? How about knowing if you work best in the morning with a cup of tea in your hand, or if you work best late into the night? Do you retain information longer if you handwrite notes, or if you type it on a computer? Regardless of how you learn, knowing yourself is essential. We need to look no further than to works of fiction that you read in high school to know that it is natural for humans to learn. Take Scout Finch from To Kill a Mockingbird. She is an interpersonal learner, or one who learns from those around her. Even though she's a child and sometimes learns in accidental ways, by the conclusion of Lee's novel, Scout has learned from her father Atticus and other members of the town of Macomb that justice isn't always served. She also learns that her first impression of people, such as her neighbor Boo Radley, are often incorrect. Another woman who we can learn from is Janie Crawford from Their Eyes Were Watching God. She's a reflective intrapersonal learner. By knowing herself, she is able to know the power of her own voice in Eatonville, to know how to jump a king in a game of checkers, and to know that true love can still come after several failed marriages. Even though Janie's life isn't easy, her self-knowledge sharpens over the course of the novel. Learn from these fictitious characters. Know yourself. Know your learning style. Secondly, no matter the type of learning you do in the future, make sure to own your own decisions. As many of you know, our beloved principal, Mr. Bird, is leaving after this school year to take a new job as Director of Secondary Education in Arlington County. Even though we, as students and teachers, are devastated to see him leave, we will have many memories to keep in our hearts. I will not only have fond memories of Mr. Bird tweeting pictures or words of encouragement from every athletic event, concert, or play, but I have learned from Mr. Bird that leadership is often difficult. There is a Birdism that my colleagues and I know well. Don't worry. It's simply, it's on me. Whenever we're in a meeting, especially a contentious or difficult one, someone has to make a decision. After the decision is made, Mr. Bird says to the group, "It's on me," meaning he will own the decision and take responsibility for any questions, comments, or ire. I have learned to take ownership over the difficult decisions that I have in my life, and you should too. Many of you have already confronted challenges, difficulties, and opposition in your life. As the writing lab instructor, I've had the privilege of reading almost every senior's college essay. I have read and watched as you have owned the challenges that you have faced, such as a parent's divorce, a breakup with a boyfriend or a girlfriend, a move across the country or globe, a failure to succeed in a sport, a triumph in learning to overcome a disability, or even a sibling rivalry over who gets the control of the remote. But my point is, own your decision to achieve and learn. Finally, as you make the decision to take ownership in your own learning, make sure you don't miss out on the opportunities right in front of you. There is nothing more disheartening to me than a lunch table full of kids silently eating and texting one another at the same table, instead of looking at one another and talking and laughing face to face. As impressive as your Snapchat score may be, mine is only 360, stay engaged, look around, and connect. Facial expressions can say so much. The difference between a smile and a smirk is subtle, but so important in building a relationship. Reading someone else's body language is crucial to understanding the world. You won't get this through a screen, so close your laptops, put down your phones, observe and engage. One of the best places to learn is from those around you. Class of 2016, don't forget where you have come from, George Mason High School. 1 year, 5 years, or 20 years down the road, don't forget to come back and visit your teachers. Not only will Mr. Walsh's hair be much longer, and Mr. Henderson might still stop you in the halls during a moment of silence, more than anything, we are glad to see you. Mason is your second home. And remember, like your parents, teachers save everything. We have that embarrassing video of the time you bombed your first 9th grade persuasive speech, or your first kiss in the musical Oklahoma, or when you avoided Mr. Knight for weeks because you didn't want your computer to be re-imaged, or the video of you learning the Virginia Reel during your capstone presentation. So graduating class of 2016, keep learning, Know how you learn. Own your own decisions and don't miss any opportunities. And don't forget to come back and say hi once in a while. Congratulations.
Nachita,
It is now my distinct pleasure to invite my colleagues, Mr. Hills and Mr. Clark, Assistant Principals, Ms. Krajanowicz, Director of Counseling, Mr. Healy, Senior Class Advisor and Dean of Students, and Mr. Snyder, Senior Class Advisor, to join me in presenting the diplomas to the class of 2016.
Ladies and gentlemen, tonight I have the distinct pleasure to award a diploma to a man that embodies what it means to excel in mind, body, and character. And after more than 7 years of dedicated service, we, the faculty, staff, students, and community, will allow him to graduate from George Mason High School. Please join me in recognizing honorary diploma recipient Tyrone Q. Bird. David Edward Matz, valedictory scholar, George Mason scholar, IB diploma candidate. Clara Faye Frost, valedictory scholar, George Mason scholar, IB diploma candidate, National Honor Society. Carolyn Marie Worley. Anne Elise Ferguson, valedictory scholar, George Mason scholar, IB diploma candidate, National Honor Society. Vicky Marie Asabia Ado Ashung, valedictory scholar, George Mason scholar, IB diploma candidate, National Honor Society. Erin Kathleen McMillan, National Honor Society. Jacob Powers Abruzzi. Samuel Richard Allen, valedictory scholar, George Mason scholar. Eliza Ann Allen, valedictory scholar, George Mason scholar. Joshua Neal Allen. Morena Haley Allen Lewis, George Mason scholar, IB diploma, National Honor Society. Noah Christopher McGee Anderson, valedictory scholar, George Mason scholar, IB diploma candidate, National Honor Society. Jake Eli Armendariz. Jessica Barbara Ann Ash. Jacqueline Taylor Bartz. Sophia Bandura, George Mason Scholar, IB Diploma candidate. Anna Caitlin Barber Leslie, IB Diploma candidate. Thomas Philip Beto, valedictory scholar, George Mason Scholar, IB Diploma candidate, National Honor Society. Tess Bliss. Nathan Abeku Bloomgarden, IB Diploma candidate. Cecilia Francis Bonner. Douglas Kent Bossert, valedictory scholar, George Mason Scholar, IB Diploma candidate, National Honor Society. Christian Kendall Brown. Autumn Renee Broxson. Jacob Harold Bruner. Corinne Carson, George Mason Scholar, National Honor Society. Gabriel Lawrence Casero. Cole Powell Castile, valedictory scholar, George Mason Scholar, IB Diploma candidate. Presenting the next graduate's diploma is school board member and father Justin Castillo. George Paulson Castillo, valedictory scholar, George Mason Scholar, IB Diploma candidate, National Honor Society. James Michael Kavanaugh. Jasraj Singh Chahil. Dorian Gregory Charpentier, valedictory scholar, George Mason Scholar, IB Diploma candidate, National Honor Society. Tiffany Tuyetni Chow Deng. Eric Miles Clinton. Sarah Suzanne Kopic. Jack Michael Dana. Matthew Armando Desira. Marsden Philip Davis, valedictory scholar, George Mason Scholar, IB Diploma candidate, National Honor Society. Rebecca Ann Davis, valedictory scholar, George Mason Scholar, IB Diploma candidate, National Honor Society. Mateos Pedish Di Carvalho. Natalie Judith Diaz. Mary Catherine Donovan. Valedictory Scholar, George Mason Scholar, IB Diploma Candidate, National Honor Society. Carolyn Keys Duffett. Daniel Edward Dusenberry. William Joseph Ehrman, National Honor Society. Emily Amanda Edmonds, Valedictory Scholar, George Mason Scholar, National Honor Society. Guthrie Edson, George Mason Scholar. Leah Rose Eldred, Valedictory Scholar, George Mason Scholar, National Honor Society. Zachary Allen Ellis, Valedictory Scholar, George Mason Scholar. Mary Belen Escobar. Genevieve Marie Estrada. Lindsay Diane Fetter. Declan Connor Ferguson. Julia Catherine Ferris, George Mason Scholar, National Honor Society. Patrick Muller Field. Shelby Mackenzie Fields. Amy Nicole Fritsch. Brady Catherine Furley, Valedictory Scholar, George Mason Scholar, National Honor Society. Yoshka Adam Gall, IB Diploma Candidate. Caroline Alexander Gaskins, Valedictory Scholar, George Mason Scholar, IB Diploma Candidate, National Honor Society. Celia Ann Geiser, Valedictory Scholar, George Mason Scholar, IB Diploma Candidate, National Honor Society. Catherine Janice Gilligan, National Honor Society. Tyler John Gogol, Valedictory Scholar, George Mason Scholar, IB Diploma Candidate, National Honor Society. Benjamin Enrique Gomez. Grant Zachary Goodwin, George Mason Scholar, IB Diploma Candidate. Seth Austin Harding, IB Diploma Candidate. John Gerald Hennessy. Chase Carter Haru. Sophie Jane Hill, National Honor Society. Trinity Cheyenne Hill. Madeline Suzanne Hoff, National Honor Society. Lily Zhang Hoffman. Ella Sophia Howard, valedictory scholar, George Mason Scholar, IB Diploma candidate, National Honor Society. Joseph Grant Howard. Bilal Ali Joffrey. Melissa Louise Johnson, National Honor Society. Neil Johnston. Darice McDermott Jones, valedictory scholar, George Mason Scholar, IB Diploma candidate, National Honor Society. Forrest Zachary Jones. Emmeline Ann Keith, valedictory scholar, George Mason Scholar. Julianne Elizabeth Kelly, National Honor Society. Diana Kristen Kim, valedictory scholar, George Mason Scholar, IB Diploma candidate, National Honor Society. Michelle Sejin Kim. Francesca Marie King. Benjamin Hartman Kravinsky. Abigail Olivia Lavelle. Rahim Jima Ade Lawal II. Simona Layton. Louis Paul Lindsay. Haley Tracy Lofterthune.
Gabriel Markham Lundquist, valedictory scholar, George Mason Scholar, IB Diploma candidate. Samuel Andrew Luton. Christopher Michael Marcus, valedictory scholar, George Mason Scholar, IB Diploma candidate, National Honor Society. Brian James Martin. Anthony Harrison Mascarenhas. Carrington Ashley Mooney, valedictory scholar, George Mason Scholar, IB Diploma candidate, National Honor Society. Ava Caroline McDonald. Erin Margaret McFall, valedictory scholar, George Mason Scholar, National Honor Society. Jackson Ray McKeating. Matthew Glenn McKeon. Kieran Menon, valedictory scholar, George Mason Scholar, IB Diploma candidate, National Honor Society. Elliot Alejandro Mercado, valedictory scholar, George Mason Scholar, IB Diploma candidate, National Honor Society. Kate Elizabeth Mills. Matthew Michael Minio, George Mason Scholar, National Honor Society. Ray Lynn Mondragon. Killian Lee Moore. Anne Olivia Mothershead. Sarah Aranda Mueller. Logan Harley Nesson, valedictory scholar, George Mason Scholar, IB Diploma candidate, National Honor Society. DeMonte Marquise Noble. Gabrielle Jerez Obusan. Eleda Oron. Alexander Mark Palath. David Joshua Pritchard. Matthew Arthur Puentes. Braxton William Puentes. Robert Clark Quave, IB Diploma candidate. Madeline Ann Quinn. Jackson Robert Rands. Brenny Jasmine Recinos, George Mason Scholar. Donal Kenny Reyes de Leon. Chase Manning Rich. Madeline Richter Atkinson, valedictory scholar, George Mason scholar, IB diploma candidate. Connor Augustus Rogers. Leslie Angela Rondon. Nathan Josiah Royce, National Honor Society. Aisha Elizabeth Rupert. Ryan Muhammad Salem. Samsudeen Donald Sala, IB diploma candidate. Jacob Benjamin Sarner. Hayden Matthew Sauceville. Daniel Seamus Schlitt. James De Leon Schneider. Aaron Senyard. Anand Seshadri, IB diploma candidate. Blaise Sevier, valedictory scholar, George Mason scholar, IB diploma candidate, and National Honor Society. Justin Patrick Schaefer, George Mason scholar. Bikash Shahi. Yusuf Shin, valedictory scholar. Nicholas Ronald Kane Slusher. Abigail Jean Smith, valedictory scholar, George Mason scholar, and National Honor Society. Ashley Dakota Smith, National Honor Society. Lillian Francis Soltis. Jonathan Samuel Stern, valedictory scholar, George Mason scholar, IB diploma candidate, and National Honor Society. Joseph Cole Lehman Stokes. Caroline Grace Stricker, valedictory scholar, George Mason scholar, IB diploma candidate, and National Honor Society. Jamie Jun Su. Hunter Sulk, George Mason scholar. Ryan Sullivan, IB diploma candidate. John Miller Surrett, valedictory scholar, George Mason scholar, National Honor Society. Haley Swick, valedictory scholar, George Mason scholar, IB diploma candidate. Zachary M. Talamonte. Leon W. Tan, George Mason scholar, IB diploma candidate, National Honor Society. Robert Tart III. Tyler Bernard Taylor. Ziglinda Titar, George Mason scholar, IB diploma, National Honor Society. Devin M. Thomas. Justin D. Thomas. Ernesto Tinoco Benitez. Federico Falcao Tohis. Justin Timothy Trainer, George Mason scholar, IB diploma candidate. Natasha Josephine Trock. Simone Victoria Tucker. Francis Lewis Turner, IB diploma candidate. Michael James Twyford. Ginger Zena Villamar. The next diploma will be presented by school board member and mother, Margaret Ward. Brandon Peter Ward, George Mason scholar. Annie Claire Washa. Akram Alexander Weber, IB diploma candidate. David Zachary Welch, George Mason scholar, IB diploma candidate, National Honor Society. Carmen Victoria Whitaker Escobar. Alec Wilbon White. Frank Lynn Williamson, George Mason scholar, IB diploma candidate, National Honor Society. Sabine Eveline Wills, George Mason scholar, National Honor Society. Tim Winters, National Honor Society. Esther Lynn Wisdom, valedictory scholar, George Mason Scholar, IB Diploma candidate, and National Honor Society. Aditya Yadav. Jacqueline Maria Zablaki Matos. Kyle Christopher Zanger. Layla Brielle Zogi. Valedictory Scholar, George Mason Scholar, IB Diploma candidate, National Honor Society.
On behalf of the faculty of George Mason, the Office of the Superintendent, and the School Board, and with the power vested in me by the Department of Education of the Commonwealth of Virginia, I hereby confer upon these diplomas in recognition to the fulfillment of your requirements for high school graduation. Ms. Tews, Ms. Ward, Mr. Castillo, Dr. Jones, Ms. High, Mayor Tarter, Ms. Germer, faculty of George Mason, parents, relatives, and guests, I present to you the George Mason High School graduated class of 2016. I know. Hope you wrote your name in it. Before I begin my closing remarks in earnest, please indulge me as I offer thanks for the past 7 years. Thanks first and foremost to the children we have served together. You inspire us and give us great confidence that we will have a bright future ahead of us. Thanks to the George Mason educators, counselors, support staff members, bus drivers, custodians, cafeteria workers. You are among the most talented and dedicated and giving professionals I've ever had the opportunity to serve alongside. Thanks to the parents and guardians for your consistent engagement and everlasting support to your children and those that serve them. I shudder to think where we would be without each of you. Thanks to our central office led by Dr. Jones and our school board led by Mr. Castillo for your continued efforts to provide us with the resources that we need to successfully educate your children. Lastly, while I would love to thank everyone individually, we'd be here all night if I tried to do that, so I'm not going to. But please allow me a moment to offer thanks to two very special people, each of whom are essential, not just to me, but to the entire community. Ms. Debbie Flanagan and Ms. Amy Krjanowicz. Debbie's up, she's up there. You are my angels. You have been my shoulder to lean on and sometimes to cry on since day one. Collectively, you are my strength, you are my courage, and you are my confidence. I will love each of you for the remainder of my days. Thank you. Good morning, George Mason, and happy Wednesday. As we begin another wonderful day, wrong speech, I'm sorry. This is preeminently the time to speak the truth, the whole truth, frankly and boldly. Nor need we shrink from honestly facing conditions in our country today. This great nation will endure as it has endured, will revive and will prosper. So first, let me assert my firm belief that the only thing we have to fear is fear itself. Nameless, unreasoning, unjustified terror which paralyzes needed efforts to convert retreat into advance. These are the unforgettable words of President Franklin D. Roosevelt, offered during his 1933 inaugural address, where he sought to re-empower America as other nations fell prey to systems of government that restricted individual freedoms. George Mason High School graduating class of 2012, our country and the global community needs you. We need your compassion, your leadership, your determination, and we need your collective continued commitment to excel in mind, body, and character. President Roosevelt's words of encouragement were offered at a time of great national and international unrest. I won't pretend that we are on a similar precipice. He, after all, was dealing with a Great Depression and an impending world war. But I do submit that we are undoubtedly facing troubling times. Can you remember the last week when we weren't confronted with an issue regarding conflict or tumult between individuals, small factions, or entire communities? I can't. These issues have even become part of our local discourse. Mustangs, we challenge you to engage, and we further challenge you to choose respect over vitriol, empathy over disdain, and acceptance over intolerance. Please serve as willing participants in open and dynamic debates regarding the issues of the day. These debates will, of course, include disagreement and therefore cause conflict. Constructive conflict is just that, constructive. Work collaboratively and use the juxtaposition of ideas to build something together. Be willing to take a stand and be expected to defend it. Do each with grace, passion, determination, and humility. Accept the views of others and work to promote acceptance of and an appreciation for the contributions of all engaged. 7 years ago, this amazing community of students, educators, and parents accepted me. I was invited to join this community because I promised to love our children, respect their educators, counselors, and support staff, and create partnerships with their parents and guardians. The George Mason community accepted me for the flawed human being that I was then and continue to be today. George Mason graduating class of 2012, thank you for your individual and 2016. What's up with 2000? I told you, wow. Why am I doing that? What happened in 2012? Thank you for your individual and collective capacity to respect others, empathize with others, and for accepting others. Great luck in your future. Attempt great things and embrace your failures. You are sure to encounter many as you continually advance towards your better self. Fear not the failures. Embrace them, and they will combine with your successes to embolden you to press on in the face of obstacles. We did it in 1933. We will do it again today. Congratulations to each and every one of you. We are also very proud of the young adults you have become. Mustangs forever. And now ask Class President Carolyn Worley to bring the ceremony to a close.
Thank you, Mr. Bird. Many of you here are familiar with the term, the bubble. For those of you that don't know, I'm referring to Falls Church City. We grew up in a town where everyone knows each other and their families. We've walked every street, we've snuck through everyone's backyards, we've complained about the same classes together, we've seen each other grow up. Now, tonight, we are finally breaking out of the bubble. An intimidating idea, but also an exciting one. In a way, the bubble has prepared us for this moment. It allowed us to grow up in a safe environment. It allowed us to explore our interests and use our creativity. It allowed us to learn how to care about one another. It allowed us to become a unique group of people with a solid foundation for life. I, for one, am happy that I grew up in the bubble, and I'm proud to see what my fellow graduates have become. The bubble is such a positive place because of the key role models within it that we can look up to. Our school has been lucky enough to have one of these role models be our principal for the last 7 years. Mr. Bird always made us feel at home at George Mason. When we were 8th graders, lost in a sea of high schoolers, he made us feel like we belonged. He knew all of us by name. He greeted us every morning with a smile and a handshake. He made the Mustangs have a reputation of friendliness. He made George Mason feel like a bubble. Thank you, Mr. Byrd, for being a kind, thoughtful, dedicated principal. The class of 2016 truly appreciates all you have done for this school. So we got you something to remember us by. Class of 2016, congratulations. We're ready to break out of the bubble.